everyone, I'm the Peculiar Pisces and welcome to my channel. Today is December 30th, 2025, and this is my 2025 WIP Parade. Sorry, my little one is in the other room and she just giggled in it. I heard it. I was trying to I'm hoping it's not too loud. Anyway, if you're a returning subscriber, thank you. Thank you for coming back week after week and looking at my pretties as I show them off. And if you're a new subscriber or you're new to my channel, welcome, welcome. So let me tell you a little bit about myself, since a lot of new people might be joining us and the older subscribers probably haven't heard me talk about it in a while. I've been married to my husband for 16 years. We have 2 children. I am 42 years old. We live in Colorado. We've got a dog and 2 cats. They have made some appearances in some of my videos. For the most part, I've kept my kids off camera. There may have been a time or two when you've heard a voice asking me a question, but they've pretty much remained off camera. They're too young for YouTube's guidelines, and I don't want to get any of my videos taken down. So I have been cross-stitching since, I think, 1998. My grandma taught me, and when she taught me, what she was doing was embroidery, where it's printed on the fabric, but the particular one that she was working on was doing cross-stitch X's. And I quickly realized that that wasn't quite what I had imagined cross-stitch or needlework to be. Hold on, I need to let the dog in. Okay, sorry about that. The dog had wanted out, and then she wanted in. We know how that goes. So anyway, I have been cross-stitching since about 1998, and my grandma first taught me. And I've just been picking it up and putting it down over the years. I've got a lot of completed projects. I didn't realize I had as many as I did until last year, when I had first focused my channel on floss tube. The start of every episode, the start of every one, I would show a completed project. And it took me about halfway through the year, I think, before I finally didn't have any more completed projects. So, like, I have more than I think that I do, but I feel like I'm very notorious for starting projects and then never finishing them again. You can see a little bit behind me here. The lighthouse is from 2010. And you can't really see it, but it's got like sunflowers and like bowls. It's like a Southwest style piece. That one is from 2011. And then after I had my oldest in 2013, I sort of put away any and all cross stitch. I was terrified of losing or dropping a needle and my kid finding it. So I stopped for many years, and I had sort of focused on crochet for a really long time. When I picked this back up in 2023, I had finished whatever I had left on my hoop, and then I had worked on this one, which was my fair piece for last year. And then that is the only one that I managed to finish in 2024. So that pretty much brings you up to date, I think. So when I started my channel in 2024, I started with 4 total projects, and I just worked on those 4 projects through the whole year of 2024. So by the time December rolled around, I was like, well, everybody's doing WIP parades, but I pretty much am doing a WIP parade every single week because I only have these 4 projects. And I can tell you that by November, I was sick of them. I had finally finished this one in December, And I was like, I need to put these away. They are driving me crazy. I've been looking at them for too long, all the excuses that we tell ourselves. So I decided that for 2025, it would be my year of new starts. And that's how it's been this year. I have started 12 main projects, and that's primarily what the bulk of this video is going to be. I also attempted to do some temperature stitching because that sounded really fun, but towards the end of this year, I realized that it just wasn't feasible with my schedule, and so I've pretty much stuck to my 4 main projects. Then I decided to have a 1 strand a day type project, which I have been working on off and on, just not as much lately. The holidays are so busy. My schedule is so crazy. So I have been working on it, just not as much as I had been. And sorry, I wrote a bunch of notes, so I'm trying to keep track and have this be like an organized video because there's a lot of projects to show. So this year I did have 2 finishes, and they were 2 of the 3 carryover projects from 2024. And they're not FFO'd yet, and I will show them when I get to each category because I'll talk then about the finishes. And yeah, so I had 2 whole finishes this year, and one of them is definitely for the fair, and the other one I still haven't quite decided what I want to do with it yet. But I'll get more into that when I actually talk about those projects. So, last year in 2024, when I made Floss Tube my focus for my channel, I had divided my projects into 4 categories. I've got favorite designer, Blackwork / sampler, wishlist, and stash buster. Those are the 4 projects, or the 4 categories that all of my projects fall under, with the exception of the temperature projects and like the 1 strand a day project. So for favorite designers, Teresa Wentzler is my very, very favorite designer. She always has been. I fell in love with the look, the style, I fell in love with it. And if you know anything about Teresa Wentzler, they're difficult to do. A lot of people will start a Teresa Wentzler and never actually finish it until maybe 40 years later. So I had the Fantasy Collection Volume 1. I'm still looking for Volume 2, but the price on Volume 2 is ridiculous. And at this point, I think I almost have all of the patterns anyway. But I decided for 2024, when I started my Floss Tube focus, that I was going to do a Teresa Wentzler. And I was proud of it, and it was going to be my fair piece. And that's the one that I did finish. That's the Castle by Teresa Wentzler. Then I also like Nora Corbett Mirabilias, as well as Bella Filipinas, and I like Lavender and Lace, and I like Paula Vaughn. Like, there's several designers that I like. So besides doing Teresa Wentzler, I was like, I will get sick and tired of doing Teresa Wentzler, and I don't want to get sick of her work because it's so beautiful that I really want to finish them. So I decided to add Nora Corbett Mirabilias, Bella Filipina, and Lavender and Lace to my rotation for this year. And so each month I started a new favorite designer when it was time to work on that particular project. And then the next category that my projects fall under is Blackwork / samplers. This is specific to entering my projects into the fair. There's two fairs that come to my general area. There's the county fair and the state fair. The state fair is definitely the bigger, more turnout as far as it go, but both fairs have a sampler category and both fairs have a Blackwork category. And so I just decided if I alternate month to month, then I can get through and, work on them both and eventually have fair pieces. Then my wish list category was pretty subjective. When I first started the channel in 2024, it was about any website that was a cross stitch website that had a wish list feature like 123 Stitch, Heaven and Earth Designs, Tilton Crafts, Etsy, things like that. If it had a wish list feature, one of my favorite things to do when I'm bored is to favorite, heart, like, do that to patterns. So I have ridiculously long wish lists for all of these websites, and it's something that I wanted to actually I want to work on them instead of just like them on my computer screen or my phone screen. But as 2025 happened, I sort of shifted it from having a wish list feature to just any project that I want to do, that I wish to do. And so that just sort of opened it up more, I think. And then the final category that I divide my projects into is Stash Buster. And that is because when I was in college, I worked part-time at Michael's and TJ Maxx. And so while I was working at Michael's, I would use my employee discount and I would buy kits, or I would wait until they hit the clearance section and I would buy them like really, really cheap. So I have a bunch of old patterns from like 2002, 2003, 2004-ish when I was working at Michael's. So instead of continuing to carry them through my life and move with them, I don't know how many more times, I decided that I wanted to finish them and either, have them as a finished object or make them into something else or give them away to people as I finish them. So that's the 4 categories that I've been separating all of my projects into. Now, okay, let me get rid of that paper. Okay, so we will start with project 1. And something that you will find that I do is I keep track of the amount of time that I spend working on the specific projects. I have a stopwatch feature on my phone, and so I just hit start before every session, and then I stitch, and then whenever I'm done, I hit stop, and then I take a screen capture, and then I take a daily photo of my pieces, because I found prior to 2024, I had found that I feel like I put in so much time, so many days, so many hours, so many weeks, so many months, and it can feel like I'm just stitching in the exact same spot week after week, day after day, hour after hour, and I feel like I get no progress, and I started to get disheartened with my projects. And so I found that if I took a daily photo, so every day that I worked on it, I would take a photo after every session. And then if I compared my photo from the beginning of the week to the photo at the end of the week, I could actually see the type of progress that I had made. And it made me feel a lot better because then you can see your progress, as opposed to, I've just been working in the same area and it feels like it's taking forever. So that's just one of the things that I do personally. And so I keep track of my time week after week, and I record it in a notebook, and then I add up my time. And generally, when I do my weekly updates, I tell you, so this is how many hours I spent on it for this week, and this is now how many this is how long I've spent on the total project. Merlin, my little cat, she might knock the tree down. Merlin. Hold on, let me pause this and get her out of there. Okay, so she's away from it. Hopefully she won't knock it down again. She's already attempted, like, this twice she's knocked it down. Okay, so I will show the projects in the order that I started them this year and talk about each one before moving on to the next category. So I have all 4 of my favorite designer projects right here. So I started the year with Bella Filipina's Daughters of Estuary. This was a brand new start. I started it January 1st, 2025. I wrote 2024, but it's not 2024, it's 2025. I started this January 1st, 2025. This is stitched off. It is from Volcano Stitching. This is 18 count Opal Aida, and this particular one is the 18 by 28 size. But here is how far I got on it. So I started this and I am halfway done, and I'm working on this mermaid. I'll finish her and then jump back over to this one. So this is on a paper pattern. I don't have a lot of the statistics for it. It's like I don't have a stitch count. I just have how much time I've spent on it and what my plans are going into 2026. So I worked on this January, May, and September. I think that for 2026, I'm going to keep all of my projects in this same rotation. So I will work on this again in January, May, and September. So I'm hoping that by September, I will have, at the very least, finished all of the cross stitching on the 2 mermaids. Like, that is my goal, to have the cross stitching done. And then I'd like to start on the beads. Yeah, the beads and in the outline, the back stitching, the beads and the back stitching. I was gonna say the beads and the Krynic, but I've already been doing the Krynic as I go. So the holes that you see are for the beads. They've got a lot of beads up in their headdresses. They've got beads in through here. I did do some, like, I needed to see some beads on the fabric, so I did do some over here, but I didn't do a lot because of having to move the hoop. I'm using a hoop when I work on this one. Okay, so as I said, I started this one January 1st of 2025. I'm just double checking that the numbers that I have are correct. Okay, so I put in 110 hours, 25 minutes, and 8 seconds on this particular project for 2025. Like I said, I hope to get all of the cross stitching done for 2026 and maybe finish the beads and the back stitching into 2027. But it'll be a miracle if I get it all done in 2026. For this one, I am using one of the ballpoint needles. I love the ballpoint needles. They're my favorite. A lot of these favorite designer projects, I'm actually using the ballpoint needles because I like them so much. Okay. So that was my first one. Then I worked on Mirabilia's August Peridot Faerie. I started this in February. So I started this February 1st, 2025. This one is stitched on. This is BestitchMe. It's called Wild Bouquet. This is 28 count Opal Lugana, and this is on the half yard piece because I wasn't sure about the sizing. She's upside down. So she is also halfway done. Now, the only bit of beading that I did on this was this handle on her wand, scepter thing. No matter how many times I was counting, I could not count up to do the stitching right here. I would count and I would put my stitch marker in, and then I would count again to double check, and it would be in a second spot, so I would mark where that stitch was. I would count a third time and it would be in a different spot, and so I would count a fourth time and it would be in the first spot, and I just kept going over and over and over in those couple of spots. So I was like, you know what, let me just put in these couple of beads so that I can do it. Now what I love is where the yellow part is. That's kind of like glowy around where her scepter is, or her staff, like what is that, her wand? So I like the placement of where it's at on this. Now this one, again, I don't have a stitch count on because this is a paper pattern. I scanned it as a PDF and I'm working on my computer as I work on it. But I don't know if I'll be able to continue doing that. Just because those start to get really big and they bog down my computer and I have trouble. But I will try. So this one I worked on February, June, and October. And this one is sort of the same goal as the Bella Filipina, is that I would like to get the stitching done this year before I start working on the beads and the back stitching. So this one I put in 54 hours, 39 minutes, and 40 seconds. And then again, I'm also using the ballpoint needle on this one. So then the third project that I worked on for the favorite designer was a Lavender and Lace. And this one I did not start this year. This was technically a carryover from 2024. In 2024, my husband and my children and I were going to visit my family in Pennsylvania. And like I knew it was coming up. We had planned it sort of so that we would be there for my mom's birthday, and the Maple Festival was going on at the same time. It's something that our small town general area does, is the Maple Festival. It's held in our town. And people used to come from everywhere, and it was a huge deal. And now it's barely the locals show up anymore. But we went to the Maple Festival. It was the first time that I had been able to take my kids. Um, and again, it was not like it used to be in years past. There wasn't the amount of live shows that there were. There weren't the amount of vendors that used to be there in days gone by. But anyway, knowing that this trip was coming up, I pulled out one of my lavender and lace patterns, and I had decided that I would take the time and try to rechart it into floss cross. And before going to the trip in Pennsylvania in April of 2024, I had gotten halfway done in the rechart, and I exported it, and I was like, I'm just going to work on this. So for knowing that I wanted to work on this then in 2025, I went to open it and finish recharting it, and it had disappeared. Couldn't find it anywhere. I apparently didn't save it, so I couldn't like re-upload it. I don't know what happened other than the export save. So I had to rechart it again. So I did finally end up recharting it, heading into 2025 last year. I think around November of 2024 is when I started trying to rechart it, and I talked about it off and on. So this one, this is The Lady of the Thread by Lavender and Lace. And when I was recharting it, I changed the color of her dress. And I'm changing her dress to purple. This dress is so lovely, but I feel like it just gets lost in the picture because the dress is the exact same colors that are in the leaves and the greenery of the wreath. So I thought she needed a dress change. So this fabric is, where did I put that piece? It is the DMC. Here it is. I have so much stuff everywhere. The fabric it's this DMC needlework fabric in 14 count, and the color is 3033. It's like a gray stone kind of color, and it's 14 count. This fabric is just going to be long enough for the piece. It's going to have like, it's this 1/2 inch border up here, but I'm not framing this. This one isn't one that I was planning on entering into the fair, so it's not going to be framed. I don't quite know what I want to do with it. Maybe a pillow when it's done. But here is my progress. When I started in 2024, I originally thought that I would do like extreme cross country and kind of do color completion. And so like I had started that with the greens. So like on the back, there are quite a lot of carry spots. I don't think you can see it very well, but there are quite a lot of the carry spots from when I was originally doing cross country. Then when I picked it up to become like a real focus piece, I went ahead and started working from the top down. And so like I got so far on the wreath part, and then I jumped over to the middle to get this done. the last time I picked it up, I had wanted to at least get into her dress so I could start to see how the color conversion was working. Now, because I did rechart this into Floss Cross, I was able to put this into Pattern Keeper. And so this is one of the few of these favorite designers that I have actual stitch counts on. So I did work on this March, July, and November. And then so with the Lady of the Thread, I started this April 25th, 2024. And when I finished it in November, I have 5,906 stitches out of 17,306. And I'm at, oh, no. Sorry, wrong number. When I put this down in November, I am sitting at 6,362 out of 17,306. And I'm at 36.76% complete. I have put in 49 hours, 52 minutes, and 7 seconds onto this project. And I'm also using the ballpoint needle on this one. Like I said, these favorite designer ones, I'm using the ballpoint needles on. The other ones, I'm just using regular needles. Goes inside this one. And then the fourth project that I worked on for project one, that's what I want to say, is Teresa Wentzler. It took me several months, but I finally got back to Teresa Wentzler. So this one, I had originally scanned it and I was working on it on my computer, and this month in December is when I was working on it, and I found out that by that time my PDF started bogging down. It wasn't as responsive. It wasn't recording what I was telling it to record. So I ended up printing it out, and now I'm using a highlighter on it. So the Teresa Wentzler that I started in April is the Woodland Faerie. And this one was also a new start. So 3 new starts in the Project 1 category, 1 holdover from the year before. So this one is from Fabric Flair. It's 28 count even weave, and it's called Flower Champagne. And it's a really big piece. So I started in the middle because generally I am a middle out stitcher. The Bella Filipina is done that way. The Mirabilia is done that way. This one is done that way. The only one that's not done that way for these Project 1 projects is the Lavender and Lace. And that was because I originally had the intention of doing color completion and cross country, and then didn't, and then just decided to go from the top down. So here is where I am. Now I worked on this one April, August, and then again in December. Oh, this is also supposed to be the opalescent, but I think all the glitter has fallen off now. I don't really see any shiny spots in the glitter area. I have started using the blending filament in her wings. I don't know if you can see any of that shine, but in person, the shine is beautiful. So yeah, I said I worked on this April, August, and this month in December. And so I am finishing it out. I started this April 9th, 2025. And we are ending with 42 hours, 23 minutes, and 33 seconds onto this project. I need to get a real needle minder for this one instead of the broken magnet thing that's on it. Okay. All right. So that concludes Project 1 projects. Let me go ahead and pause this, sort of clean up my mess, and gather the next couple of projects. Okay, so next I'm going to be talking about project number 2 category, which was the Blackwork / sampler category. This one, I had started the Blackwork in 2024. That was one of my 2024 projects that I carried over into this year. And definitely a fair piece. And I didn't want to have 4 different projects like I did with project number 1. I don't love samplers enough for me to want to work on more than one at a time. And while I do love Blackwork, there are a lot of really nice patterns that I get kind of overwhelmed in choosing the things that I want to work on. So I just wanted to keep project 2 category pretty simple, and I just wanted to have 2 projects, one sampler and one Blackwork, and work on that until it was finished. And that was how I tackled project number 2 for this year. So I started, because I had worked on the Blackwork all through 2024, I decided to switch to the sampler and start that one in January. So the sampler that I worked on is this Dutch Beauty sampler. And I hand dyed the fabric in a Come Dye With Me video. I believe that it's 14 count Aida. I had a huge, like, yard and a half piece of fabric, and that's about how much that I needed for this sampler whenever I put it all into the stitch calculator. And so I dyed the whole piece. So I did follow the directions. I started in the upper left-hand corner, and I've been working my way over page by page. I am on page D, which is the 4th page. It is in alphabetical order. This one's going to be pretty big. I mean, here's the whole piece. And I'm just in this top area. Uh-oh. I just knocked my needle minder off. The magnet hit my foot. There's the needle in the top. Where's the bottom? I'm going to have to find that later. That's taking too long for me to see. So, there so I don't lose it. Here's where I last was the last time you saw it. So what I do is first I start and I continue the leaf part over the border, and then I'll come down. And that's just how I've been working on this one. So So I started this January 1st, 2025, and I got to work on this January, March, May, July, September, and November. So 6 months this year was dedicated to this one. Now, when I ended this, I had put in 63 hours, 38 minutes, and 23 seconds. And so what I had done is I had scanned it and I brought it into Pattern Keeper that way. And so the stitch count is way off because it's counting every single block, including the blocks that don't actually need to be stitched. So I can tell you that I have put in 12,184 stitches into it. I just don't know how many there are supposed to be. So this one was a new start for this year. Hopefully I'll find that magnet soon. Okay, because I don't want to lose that. I'll put that inside the cookie tin. Some of my things are cookie tins. Okay, and then the second project that I worked on this most of this year, was Pentecost, which is the one that I had worked on last year. So I don't have my paper. I'm going to have to get an electronic picture to show what it looks like. But this is by Practical Blackwork, and it's called Pentecost. Now, I stitched this on 18 count Aida that I hand dyed myself. I did not do a come dye with me video because I dyed this last year in 2024. Okay, this is the front. I say that and I have to designate that this is the front because this is the back and it looks almost just as good as the front. It looks a little bit bolder on the back. So here is the whole thing. I have not washed it yet. I have not ironed it yet. It's probably not going to be washed and ironed until right before I decide to take it to the framers. So I worked on this one February, April, June, and August, and I finished this on August 26th. And I started this January 9th of 2024 and finished it August 26th of 2025. And I put in a total of 122 hours, 9 minutes, and 2 seconds. So that one was a huge undertaking. And I honestly can't wait to take it to the framers and try to figure out what sort of frame and mat is going to make this look good. So this was my first finish of 2025, and I did not get that finish until August 26th. And then I worked on the next Blackwork that was taking that one spot is the Orchid Blackwork pattern by Loose Thread Stitchery. Now, I purchased this off Etsy. No, that says Etsy. I was going to say, she might have a website. You can just Google Loose Thread Stitchery and see where it takes you. But I did get this off of Etsy specifically. I hand dyed this fabric in a Come Dye With Me video. That's 18 count Aida that I dyed myself. It was the same cut of fabric that the other Blackwork piece was on as well. So here is where I am. I finished this first page, which this is like the middle because I'm a middle out stitcher. So it started like right here. So I stitched out and I finished this first page, and then I came over to this next page and I've been working. This one I worked on October and December. Okay, so that's it for my project twos, my Blackwork and my sampler pieces. So let me pause this, clean up a little bit, and gather my next section of crafts. I think I forgot to tell you my times there. So that one is, okay. So the Orchid Blackwork, I started October 1st, 2025, and I put in 15 hours, 47 minutes, and 48 seconds into that one. Okay, so project 3 is the wish list category. And like I said, that one has vastly changed from when I first came up with that category in 2024. So now it's just anything that I want to work on. So I started with Tilton Crafts Winter in the Shire. Don't know where the picture for that one got to. I had seen it, I had brought it up, but now I don't know. I'll get an electronic copy. So this is Tilton Crafts Winter in the Shire. And this is the first one that I really decided to get out of my stitchy comfort zone and try something different. This one, I am doing it by color completion. I found I really like doing color completion because I feel like I'm just mowing through the numbers when I actually work on it. But I found out that you sort of have to plan your project before you actually start it, because you might wind up with a color that you don't actually want to stitch that with for your first color. Mine, the color is white. It's 3865 white. And so I really don't know how well you're actually going to be able to see this one. But this is stitched on 25 count easy grid, I think it's Lugana, that I got from 123 Stitch. And there is stitching on this, I promise. It's just all white. So I don't know if you can see that, but the stitching starts here. And there's a big area up here and some tree shapes. Then there's a roof of a house that kind of comes over here. Then there's some more things down here and stuff all the way towards the bottom. So I am in this bottom area. I'm right down here. This is where the thread is still attached to the needle, is right down here. So this was one of the new starts. This one, I started it December 30th, 2024, because like I said, by the time November rolled around, I was sick of all my projects. So I did technically start this one in 2024, but this was a January, New Year, new start. Well, I wrote January 30th, but the time is actually not put on here until January 1st. So I don't know, unless I stitched on the 30th and just put the time on the 1st. I'm not sure what I did there. But I worked on Winter in the Shire in January, May, and September. And when I finished it in September. I had put in 64 hours, 35 minutes, and 16 seconds. And because I bought this from Tilton Crafts, I was able to bring it into Pattern Keeper. So I do have stats on this one. I have completed 16,949 stitches out of 122,500, and I'm at 13.84%. Now, I only have like 2,500 more stitches, 2,500-ish more stitches left to complete this color. So when I pick this back up in January, that is my goal, to get this color out so I can start putting the next color on. Because I hate stitching on white fabric, but the Easy Grid fabric only comes in like white, maybe cream or ivory, but I know for sure white. And I have 2,533 stitches left. I don't like stitching white on white either when it's this bare. So it's been a struggle, even though I enjoy it when I'm stitching on it, because like I said, I just eat up the stitches. So here's my pattern keeper. The purple is what's left to stitch of this color. So I'm really close to finishing out this color, and that's my big goal for January, and I'm hoping to hit this about mid-January and then go out and get the next color and work on the next color. And so I told you my hours, my percentage. Yeah. So I can't wait until this finally has color other than white, so you can actually see it on the fabric as I show it. Because when I showed it, I think the only way that you can tell there's stitching there is because the fabric is wrinkled. It's kind of sad, just a little sad. So that was one of my new starts this year. So project two, the next project that I worked on this February, June, and October. And this is Nene Thomas's Waterfalls of Jade. This one is on 22 count Hardinger that I dyed myself. And I believe that I did a come dye with me video when I did it. So now this one was also another one that I was trying something different and getting out of my stitchy comfort. And I'm trying to do this one like Sarah the Stitchy Mommy's typewriter method, where I start left and I'm heading all the way to the right, and I'm just sort of focusing on one 10 by 10 block square at a time. When the Stitchy Mommy does it, she does that symbol and then she stitches it down and as far as she can and just finishes off the thread before she moves on to the next color. My piece is not gridded, and I'm not good enough at this method that I feel comfortable doing that. I started trying it and then quickly started losing my count, so I just decided to work on the 10 by 10 block. Check if the color goes down or if the color goes to the next block over. Whichever one has more stitches is the way that I would go. So if there were more stitches going down than going to the right, then I would park it down. And if there were more stitches going to the right, then I would park it to the right and then stitch it whenever I get to it. So that's kind of how I've been doing. Now this one, I'm only about halfway across. And I had worked on this February, June, and October and only got halfway in this typewriter method. I do like the typewriter method and the parking, but for this project, I don't love it. There's too much confetti in this one to make it feasible. I mean, look at all this parked thread. It's called Waterfalls of Jade, and I think when I posted about it on Reddit, someone's like, more like Waterfalls of Thread. But you can see it's looking very pretty. You can see some of the cherry blossoms over here and the start of the waterfall. And you can see all this stuff. And then over here, this is the start of the dragon and then into the sky. So now from here on, the colors are going to be like whites and blues and silvers. So I will continue this typewriter method until I get to the end. But once I come back here to this side, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I might continue with the typewriter method just to see if after we're getting into after we get out of the confetti areas, if maybe it's easier to do. But for now, I don't like the typewriter method on this project. So this one is also in Pattern Keeper. And I started this February 1st, 2025. I worked on it February, June, October. I have put in 29 hours, 37 minutes, and 44 seconds. I have put in 2,810 out of 244,860 stitches, and I am at 1.15%. So this one's a beast. It's going to take a while, and it's full coverage. And then Project 3, also a new start for this year, is Chatelaine's Misty Morning Vineyard. Now, if you want to check out a stitcher that has a lot more done on this project than I do, check out the Sharky stitcher. She stitches a lot of chatelaines, and she is stitching this one not consistently, but she is stitching on this one, and she is a lot further than I think she has like this whole like top half and like at least the first peacock done. So this one is stitched on This is Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers. It is called Dreamweaver. It's 32 count opalescent Lugana, and this is the 26 by 36 piece. And this way. It goes this way. I had to figure out which way it goes. So this is the whole fabric piece. It goes green to pink to purple. I love this piece, and I just can't wait to see how the peacocks are going to look stitched on it. So here is my progress on it. This one is stitched with all of the called for silks. I was originally going to try to do the DMC conversion, but when the colors came, they just didn't look as pretty as I thought they were going to look. And so then I was originally supposed to start this in March, but I didn't get to because I didn't have the floss. I had to buy the silks, and it was taking a while to source it. So yeah, I don't have any beads done on this yet. It's just the floss, the silks, and the Krynic. So this one was March, July, and November. But like I said, I didn't actually start it in March, so I really only worked on it July and November. So yeah, I started it July 1st, 2025. And I have put in 20 hours, 46 minutes, and 39 seconds. And the last project for the wish list projects is this is one of the carryovers from 2024. It's Heaven and Earth Designs. Artwork is by Amy Brown, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. It's called Faerie, and this is the no background version. Now, beyond that, I also am doing a blue conversion. This is what I printed out of Pattern Keeper. So I'm doing a blue conversion. It's going okay. It's going okay. So this one I worked on April, August, and December. And I actually put a lot more into it this December because I was really trying to get like a page finish, not a page finish, a row finish, possibly into a page finish. So here has been my progress. The last while now, I've just been working in the hair and parts of the skin. Now this one, I'm doing the typewriter method and parking, and with this project, it's going a lot better than with the Waterfalls of Jade. There's not nearly the amount of threads that are parked, at least not yet. Even when I was over here in the wings and it was like confetti central, it wasn't bad. So this is 22 count Hardinger that I hand dyed, and I tried to dye it to sort of match the background. So I think I did pretty okay. Like it could be darker, but I think I did pretty good in getting it to sort of match. And I do love how it's turning out. I love her. I can't wait to finish her. I don't know if she'll eventually be a fair piece or if I'll just hang her on the wall. But I do intend to frame this one and hang it. Okay, and let's get some of these stats. This one. So I started this January 9th, 2024. And like I said, I worked on this April, August, and December. So for December, for the project, I have put in 153 hours, 8 minutes, and 38 seconds. I have done 16,279 stitches out of 74,797, and I am at 21.76%. Now, when I pick this up again in April, not January, April, I want to, of course, finish the row that I'm on and then go up the next row and finish. That'll be a page finish. So I'm hoping for that page finish, and I'm hoping to get that done in April and start into the next page up. So that's my goal on that. This one is just long-term goals, and it's either going to be like row finishes or page finishes that are going to be my big markers. So, okay, let me put these away and gather the next bit. Okay, so the next category of projects that I worked on is the Stash Buster projects. And like I said, these are the things that I've been carrying around forever and ages, and I just needed to finish them. So the first one that I started working on for 2025 is Candemar Designs, and this is called Silent Journey Picture 51045. Now, I had started this originally back in 98, 99. This was my second big project. Well, no. It was after I had finished my first project, maybe a couple other projects in between. But I had started this, I'm positive, halfway through, possibly even 3/4 of the way through, and I've lost it. It's disappeared in one of the many moves that I've made in my life. So I had always been thinking about this in the back of my mind, and so I purchased this off of Mercari, got the entire kit, and so that it became a project for this year. So this is 14 count Williamsburg blue Aida that the kit provided, and I'm also using all of the floss that came in the kit. So here is my progress. Now this one I'm doing just like I normally would. I started in the middle and started going up and out until I got to the top and, just filled it all in. And now I'm over this way and coming down. There are blends. There are blending filaments. Can you see how shiny some of the filaments are? In the comet up here, some sparkles on the whale, because there's a black blending filament and then there's a white blending filament. So this is a stash kit. I bought it and put it in my stash because I knew I had started working on this ages ago, and I wanted to do it and complete it. It was that project that was sitting in the back of my head for forever. Where is that? How comes I can never find that again? And I worked on this one January, May, and September. And I started this January 7th, 2025. And I have put in 39 hours, 42 minutes, and 35 seconds. Since it's a paper pattern, I don't have any other stats than that. And then the second project that I started is the Dimensions Indian Peacock. And I am using the provided fabric and the provided floss. The fabric is 14 count natural Aida, and I didn't dye this one because there's lots of stuff that Dimensions does with single strands, double strands, half stitches, etc. And I wanted that to be able to shine through on the piece instead of it getting distracted if I dye it. So here is my progress. I'm still not quite done with this quarter, but I'm very close. I have a little bit more stitches to do up here in the flowers, and then a little bit over here to do in tans. But I'm so close to finishing this section. That's going to be my goal when I pick this up again in February, is to quickly finish out this section and move on. So then this one, I'll find which book that one's in. I think it's in this one. Yeah. Okay. So I started this February 2nd, 2025. And I worked on it February, June, and October. So I finished it out with 33 hours, 23 minutes, and 50 seconds. And this one's also a paper pattern, so I don't have the stats on that. And yeah, then my next new start was hidden. It's down here. Here it is. Plaid Bucilla's 4 Seasons. And this kit came with 28 count ivory even weave, and I dyed the fabric that they provided. I've said it before, I don't like stitching on white, ivory, or cream. Those 3 colors I really, really, really don't like stitching on. I have to have color now, and I will either purchase it from somewhere or I will dye it myself. Okay, so this is the fabric, and I dyed it myself, but did I do a come dye with me video? No, I don't think I did the come dye with me video for this one. Oh, I had it upside down. So I am in the spring quadrant. The last time I worked on it, I actually started getting in some of the parts of the letters. I finished this little section here. So really, I have to finish this and the edge here. And then there's a border that comes up and over that I have to work on. And once I finally finish that, I will be done with the spring quadrant and can move on to the summer quadrant, which is over here. So yeah, this was a new start. I hand dyed this fabric myself, but this is the fabric that they provided. And I worked on this one March, July, and November. I started that March 3rd, 2025. So March, July, November. I put in 21 hours, 24 minutes, and 49 seconds. And then the next one that I worked on, this was not new. This was my last holdover from 2024. It was Plaid Bucilla. Donna Dewberry was the designer, and it's called Hummingbird and Floral. I don't have the picture anymore. I don't know if I threw it out or if I've just misplaced it. So this one was not new. This one was probably, what, halfway done? 3/4 of the way done? And I did the back stitching on it as I go, which I normally don't do, but I was using a very small hoop when I was working on this, and I didn't want to move the hoop and move it back and move it, I didn't want to have to keep moving it while I was working on it. So I completed the cross stitching and I did the back stitching. I have put my initials and the date on it down here in the corner. So I worked on this April and August, and I finished this August 27th. So I finished Pentecost, the Blackwork piece, on August 26th, and then I finished this one on August 27th. So they were so close to being completed on the same day. Like, so I was trying. I really was trying. Now, I did hand dye this fabric. This is 14 count Aida that I bought from Michael's. I believe it's the Charles Craft Aida. And I dyed it myself. It's supposed to look like the blue sky. I don't know how well it shows up on here. I don't know if holding it back or holding it closer would help, but it is blue. It's mottled blue, and it's supposed to look like the sky. So then this one, I had started it January 9th, 2024, and I completed it August 27th, 2025. I put in 99 hours, 12 minutes, and 9 seconds. Now, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I might turn it into a pillow. I might turn it into a purse. I have no idea right now because it's a lot. It is. I can't think of what to do to finish it out. And then, okay, no, that's the end of that book. Okay, and then because I finished this in August, I started one more, and this was my last new start for these projects. And it's Dimensions Dolphin's Domain. Now this one, I had purchased this last year with the intent of this will be a companion piece to the very first piece that I cross-stitched. I have a picture of it. My grandma has this, or my mom. One of them has it now. I don't know if it's on their wall, but they have it. Eventually, I will be getting it back, and I'll probably put it on the cross-stitch wall. And so I want to hang this one next to that one. And it will kind of be an evolution of this was where I started. Look at how I don't cross my stitches the same way, and look at these silly little French knots, and wow, I can't believe that I did that terrible at back stitching versus oh, this is 30 years worth of evolution. So it will be kind of nice to see a side-by-side comparison of this is where I started and this is how I've evolved. And so I have only worked on this one in December. I just started it this month. I'm using the kit fabric and I'm using the kit floss. So this is a 14 count. It just says blue Aida. And I started in the middle and I'm just working up and over like I normally do. And this one this is going to be my new notebook for 2026 for keeping track of my projects. I already have most of it. You see my little sticky tabs? I already have most of it planned out, separated in, but there's still going to be more. And so I have a second notebook to copy everything into. So I started this December 2nd, 2025. And so far I have put in 6 hours, 48 minutes, and 38 seconds. So that concludes my main projects, my favorite designer projects, my Blackwork / sampler projects, my wish list projects, and my stash buster projects. That is all of my main projects. Now, this year, I did attempt to do temperature projects. Now, I have misplaced the notebook that I was writing everything in, so I don't have the list of the projects in order by number, but I will grab them and go through and show you what I worked on. So let me pause this, clean up a little bit, and grab the next bundle of things to show. Okay, so one of the things that was one of my temperature projects, I don't remember exactly which number it was, but I'm just going to start off here. One of the things that I enjoy is called French beaded flowers. And I've got, oh, so many books about French beaded flowers. So many books. This is the beginner's book, and this is where I was starting my projects from. Now, the first beginner's flower is a thistle. There's no good picture, but these are the instructions of everything. So this is the thistle. The thistle and the marigold are very similar in the flower portion. The thing that's different is the little stems. So I need to finish and make more, but each flower needs little stems. Only a couple have them. Only three have them. The others I need to finish. So what you do is you make a bunch of these little flowers. I think it calls for like 17 to 20 for a complete bouquet. But you make your little flowers, you get some floral clay, you stab them down into the chloral clay, and then you put like peat moss on top of it, and you just have a little floral arrangement of flowers. They never die, they never fade, you don't have to water them, and they're very cute. A lot of the ones in here are smaller and like miniature flowers, but like I have, that's for purses, but some of these books are from like the 1970s. So it's a really old craft that's been around for a long time. I'm still in the infancy of loving this craft. I had done this once before. I've made the thistle before. I've made the marigold before. I made the miniature bearded iris before. And like I had started working on the forget-me-nots, and like I had kind of decided that I didn't really like that flower, but when I go back through, when I have time, when I go back through, when I finish these, when I keep going, I'll get there. But that's one of my crafts. So that was my temperature crafts. I worked on this enough to make this many flowers. I just haven't worked on it enough to finish them and finish the next parts. And then one of the other projects that I'll start with my crochet projects. There's a couple here. So I had started this ages ago and never finished it. And the point where I'm at is literally just stitching the squares together. So it's from this patchwork Afghans through the year This is a leisure arts book, and this is actually book 2, and it's Martha Brooks Stein is the author. So this is the front cover. And the one that I'm working on is this one right here, but like I changed all of the colors. I think I was going through and using my scrap yarn. And so I don't think I had a lot of white at the time. I had a lot of some other colors, so I went ahead and did that. But, okay, let's see. Okay, so this is the top. And like I said, I'm pretty far in. Like, the whole top is done. The second area, like I need to finish this little, like 9-10 squares here. But I've done it all the way down to the bottom. So yeah. So here's where it is, and it's been like this for a long time. I need to finish it. I need to finish it. Okay. So that was one of my temperature projects this year. Like I said, I'm so close to being done. I just need to finish it. I'm good at starting projects, just not so good at finishing them. So here's the Tilton Crafts Winter in the Shire picture. I knew I brought it up. It just wasn't where it was supposed to be. Okay, so the next, it's in a laundry basket. It is, what's it called? It's from a book called How to Create Picture Afghans. And the pattern is laid out like a cross-stitch pattern. So I decided to do corner to corner on it. And this shaded area is the parts that's done. So all of this is what still needs to be done. I will try to show this. It's a little hard because Merlin gets into this and the yarn is all over the place and it's just a little crazy. Okay. I don't even know where my hook, oh, here it is. Okay. I was going to say my hook fell out, so I don't quite know where it's supposed to be. Well, this is the long side. Let's see. How far back do I have to go? It's so hard to show. But I'm almost to the point down here where I've reached the edge of the pattern, and then it quits going longer. Like it's almost the width that it's supposed to be. It's so hard to show this one because it's corner to corner. But it's it's 3 giant pansies. The pink one's almost complete. I still have the yellow and the purple. And then goes there. Okay. The next crochet I work on is so for a while I I was working on hooded scarves, and I was using this book. There are 2 books. There might be more, but I just have the first 2. So I worked on some hooded scarves. I worked on this one. I did it in, I got a special cake, and when I followed the pattern exactly, it seemed like it was too small for me. So I gave it to my youngest. And then I re-stitched it for myself. I made it bigger. Sorry. I made it bigger. I made the hood part bigger. And I continued the pattern a little bit wider. I don't know where my scarf is. And then I started working on, I think it's the one that's on this front cover. Only I got so far into the pattern, and now the directions don't make sense, and so I'm not sure how to finish it. But here's this hooded scarf that I was working on. And again, I was following the directions exactly, so I feel like the hood part is a little short. Like, I feel like it could be longer here. And I feel like the directions make it seem small. But most of it is done. I just need to, like, I'm working on the edging part, and the directions for the edging make absolutely no sense. And I just haven't had the chance to sit down and really try to work with it. So that was the last crochet that was my temperature projects. Now, I took that to work a few times and worked on it in the evening times. But that was it. Then, for a while, I was working on my monk's cloth afghan. This is called monk's cloth weaving. This is called huck weaving. This is called Swedish weaving. It has many names. I have a lot of books calling it different things. But you take a piece of monk's cloth fabric that looks like Aida fabric. It looks like Aida fabric, but it looks like it would be like size 6. I've never actually measured it to see what the weave would be, but it looks like it would be about 6 squares make an inch kind of thing. So it's just a very large scale looking Aida fabric. And what you do is you go under and over, and you weave the string through. So the one that I specifically have been working on is this middle one right here, and it's called Precious Gem. Now, I think that it called for black, and I did not happen to have any black. I think that I just had navy blue. So, okay. So, you start from the middle, and okay, so you start at the middle, you sort of fold it in half, find your middle, and then you will start working on it kind of like how a cross stitch is, only instead of going up, I went down. So the safety pin right here is my middle. So I did all of this half, and then I came over to this side, and I've done all of this half. I'm at the bottom. I'm almost done with this half. And then once I finish it, I will then rotate it and do the exact same thing that I did here on this direction, so that it it mirrors itself. This one, I really can't wait until it's done because it is just, the colors are gorgeous and it just pops. So I actually haven't worked on this in a while. For a little while, I was working on it while my husband and I were watching TV, like on the weekends and stuff. But it's been a while since I've touched this now, a couple months at least. So that was one of my temperature projects. Then, okay, this one was also one of my temperature projects. This one is a diamond art picture that I've had since, when did I buy it? I bought it in 2020. And I think I bought it right before everything locked down in 2020. But it is a Doctor Who diamond painting that I got off of AliExpress. It's the seller that was selling this no longer has this picture, so you can't get them from this seller. I'm sure there are other sellers that have it, but I pretty much put in like most of this up here this year. And then I've put in this section, and then this one is, you can see the shine where that's the sticky. So getting real close to halfway, but it's still gonna be a while. And I have to be careful that my diamonds don't fall. It's so old that I don't think the sticky is holding up as well as it used to. And then, okay, so now of the temperature projects, these were pre-printed kits that I bought off of a website. And these 3 I worked on as temperature projects sometimes. So the first one, this is a sticker, and it's a little bent now. This is what it's supposed to look like. It's just a mountainous waterfall type scene. So this is what it's supposed to look like. This is as far as I've gotten on it. Is it hard to see what I've done on it? I mean, I'm sure it is hard to see. Here, I'll show it to you from the back. So like only these like 2 rows going down. So I originally started stitching it with the intention of basically doing like the typewriter method. But this is so big. I realized that once I got into the middle of the piece, I was going to have trouble stitching it. So I thought, well, let me rotate it so it'll be easier to stitch on. Only now to work on it, I have to do my stitches backwards from how I normally stitch. And it's very slow going, and it really makes me not want to work on this project. So let me show you just how big it is so you understand like the problem that I was coming up with stitching it the normal way. Yeah. So, I mean, this is more than a yard wide. And so like I said, I rotated it to try to work on it, but to rotate it, it puts my stitches going in the wrong direction. And so I really haven't stitched on this very often. This might even become a UFO, an unfinished object, because unless I get a really huge frame, and there is a frame that I'm looking at that might be wide enough, I don't think I'm going to work on it unless I can get a frame for it. And then it'll have to allow me to have it wide so I can stitch on it like I normally do. So that was one of them. Here it is. And it's done with the satin threads. It came with the satin threads. The next one that I worked on this year is, which way does it go? This blue butterfly. Now it's been a while since I've pulled this one out and done any work on it. I'm only about this far. I have done some of the butterfly here. I have done some of the butterfly, but mostly it's just this black background. And then the next temperature stitch was this fancy purple and white peacock. Another pre-printed kit. It came with the fabric, it came with the floss. Both the purple landscape and the blue butterfly are the satin floss. This is the normal cotton floss. So for this one, this is all the further that I've worked on it. I've completed the top row, come down, started into the next row. So that has been all of my temperature projects, in which case I think it was around probably shortly after I got my job. I had to end up stopping the temperature stitches because there just wasn't enough time in the day. So the last one that I worked on this year is the one that's like my 1 strand a day, or like my daily 30. Like, I don't think I've had the time lately to put 30 minutes at a time in, but I did have the time to like put in a strand of floss. So that is this pink landscape with all the cherry blossoms and the mountains. So this one, I do want to finish this one and actually frame it and hang it on my wall in the living room. I think it would go with the decor that I have going on in there. So this one I started working on the right side. And while I'm holding it this way to show you my progress, I actually started stitching it this way. And so my stitches are going the correct way on this one. I learned my lesson from the last one. So I am showing you this way. And this is another huge, huge, huge one. Again, it's bigger than a yard. But like I said, this one, it will match everything that's going on in my living room area. I have cherry blossoms stenciled along the top of the room. This piece has the like Asian aesthetic going on, and when we lived in Korea and Japan, we got a lot of artwork up in that room when we lived in Korea and when we lived in Japan. So this I sort of want to put in the room. But I like how the mountains transition. I like the cherry blossoms down here at the bottom. Like this part right here, I'm not so sure about. There's interesting colors going on in it. And the Chinese words that are here, I'm not sure if I'm going to stitch them either. So right now I'm leaving them blank. And then when I finish it, if there's enough of this color, I'll just go back through and fill in that area. Okay. So that concludes the projects that I've worked on this year. Now, for my 2026 plans, going into it, I do want to keep the same rotation for my projects. So like where I started the Bella Filipina, the sampler, the Winter in the Shire, and the Silent Journey picture, I will be working on those again in January. And I'm just going to keep that same rotation for the months for 2026. If I finish a project in one of the months, I will just stop working on, like, I'm not going to jump to the next one right away. I'm going to give myself a couple of months until it comes back into rotation, and then I will start the next one. So for the most part, I have a lot of my upcoming projects planned out. I'll just have to keep on top of it and make sure that I order the fabrics, or I dye the fabrics, or I get in the floss and all that stuff. But I will be switching when I finish the Bella Filipina. I will be going from the Daughters of Estuary, which is a mermaid, to one of the Bella Filipina fairies. I don't think I've narrowed down exactly which Bella Filipina fairy that I want to do next, but I do know that I'm going to switch from a mermaid to a fairy. With Bella Filipina and the Mirabilias, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to alternate. Like, I started with the mermaids this time for Bella Filipina, so I'm going to go to a fairy the next time. And then same thing with the Mirabilia. I started with a fairy this time. I'm going to switch to a mermaid next time. So I just have to narrow down which Bella Filipina fairy that I want to work on and which Mirabilia mermaid that I want to work on next. And then I already know which Teresa Wentzler I want to switch to. And I have an idea which Lavender and Lace I want to switch to, but I'm currently trying to rechart that into Floss Cross so that I can have it in Pattern Keeper, just like I did with the other Lavender and Lace. It's so much easier. So I do have the idea on which ones I'm going to be switching to for my favorite designer projects. I'm not 100% sure on what sampler I want to switch to next, but I'm not anywhere close to planning the sampler project yet. So I don't need to think about what's going to be going for that one. And the same thing with the Blackwork piece. I just started the orchid piece. Now I might get it done this year. Or not this year, 2026. I might get it done in 2026, and then I'll have to figure out my next Blackwork project. With my wish list projects, I'm just going to continue working on those 4 projects until they're done. And then once it's done, I'm just going to rotate something else in. I know that they won't be finishing anytime soon. They're all of my wish list projects, well, with the exception of the chatelaine. But the other 3 projects are like full coverage projects. So they'll be in my rotation for a long, long, long time. And then my stash buster pieces, I have an idea, whichever one gets finished first next, I have an idea on which stash piece I want to pull out and work on next. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a birthday start this year. I did not do one in 2024 and I did not do one in 2025. What I'm going to do is, and I got this idea from the Huga Stitcher. She has a Christmas stocking that she's been working on, and I believe she said she started it on Christmas Day. So she will pull it out every month on the 25th, and then she will put a couple hours into it just one day a month. And so I thought, let me do a birthday start and let me do that one. And so I went through all of my projects that I had on hand, all of the patterns that I've bought from Tilton Crafts, freebies that I've gotten from Heaven and Earth Designs. I went through all of them. I want to do them color completion because that is actually fun, just knocking out those big blocks of color. But I had to be careful because I did learn my lesson. I had to be careful on which one I chose because I didn't want white to be my primary color. So first, I thought, oh, let me do this one. I've showed this picture before when I purchased it. I thought, let me do this one. But when I brought it in the Pattern Keeper and I looked at it, the primary color on this is B5200, which is bright, bright, bright white. So I was like, nope, not going to start that one. Not going to do color completion on that one. So I narrowed it down to two pictures, a Lord of the Rings one and a freebie that I had gotten from Heaven and Earth Designs. And as much as I really wanted to start the Lord of the Rings one, because the primary color on that one was going to be 310, which is black. There's like 8,968 stitches of black. And I was like, that should be pretty easy. This was the one. But I'm already working on a Lord of the Rings one that is a long-term project because it's full coverage, The Winter in the Shire. And so as much as I love Lord of the Rings, I don't want to start a new Lord of the Rings project until my current Lord of the Rings project is done. So that was out. So I finally settled on one of the two freebies that I had gotten from Heaven and Earth Designs. And this was the Valentine's 2024 freebie called Venus. It is this dragon. And the primary color on this one to start out with is 3768, which is a like tealish, bluish green kind of color. And there's like 8,886 stitches. So when I do my birthday start, I'm going to be working on this one. It's called Venus, and it's the Valentine's Day 2024 freebie that Heaven and Earth Designs had put out in 2024. And I need to get a piece of Easy Grid because the piece that I currently have is not big enough. So I need to get a new piece of the Easy Grid, and then I will make this a birthday start, and I'm going to color complete it. And so the idea is every month on the 24th, I will pull it out and I will work on it a couple of hours. If it's a weekday, instead of working on my 4 regular projects that day, I will work on my birthday start. If it is a weekend, I will just put whatever little bit of time that I can on that day, probably in the evening time. So that is it. That is my 2025 WIP Parade. So thank you for joining me. If you've made it this far into the video, bravo, props to you, because this is like a 2-hour long video. So I will get to editing this and I will get this posted as soon as possible. So this is my last video of 2025, and I did not get to do a last weekly recap. It has been insanely busy in my house since Christmas vacation started. Now it's time for the life update. So if you're just here for the stitching and the projects that I worked on, you don't have to listen to this little bit. But for my regular subscribers who do know like how things have been going lately, this is mostly for you. So my mom came to visit on I mean, she's still here. She's still here. She's over in the living room with my youngest. They're watching TV together. But she came on the 24th. She didn't get here until like 9 o'clock at night. And so on the 24th, me and my youngest, we made cookies for Santa. Santa got sand tarts and sugar cookies, homemade sugar cookies, and we iced some of the sugar cookies, and we iced some of the sand tarts too, because I had made a mistake with one of the batches. But me and my daughter had made cookies for Santa. And then like my mom came that night, and then like Christmas happened. We were so busy Christmas Day. Then the 26th is my youngest's birthday. So we were like really busy with her, but her party wasn't until the 27th, and it was a sleepover. And so it's like I've been cleaning my house for like weeks on end straight, trying to keep it straightened for the party, trying to keep it as, looking presentable for my mom coming, trying to keep the Christmas from spilling over all over. The tree is still here, but I have to take it down soon because the cat's knocked it over twice. She at least waited until after Christmas to start knocking it over, but she's knocked the tree down twice. So, it was busy keeping the house clean and keeping everything going. Now, a couple weeks ago, my water heater busted, and we had that replaced. Well, the dryer just broke on us. And I was already behind on laundry because of the Christmas holiday. And then, like, I had literally said to my mom, I was like, hey, do you think that you could, like, fold clothes and I'll just, keep cycling everything and just fold clothes for me? She's like, yeah, sure, no problem. And I went to get everything out of the dryer because I had had it on wrinkle release, and it was cold and damp. I was like, wait, did I forget to turn it on? And it's still wet. Well, like that was the other day. So I turned it on like the normal cycle. No heat. No heat. So yesterday I was at a laundromat doing like all the laundry. There's the whole couch over here is it with baskets of folded laundry that I now have to give to everybody because I took everything, and I did like 10 loads of laundry at the laundromat. It was crazy. It was crazy. So now we're looking for a new dryer, and you all knew that my schedule is changing when we come back from the New Year's. I'll now be recording on Wednesdays. I'm just so tired. I'm so tired. I'm so exhausted. And for the last week, I haven't got to touch any of my projects. I've been looking at them across the room forlornly. I'm like, I wish I could work on you, but there's too much to do. So my mom goes back next week. I believe she leaves on Tuesday. And I go back to work next week. My new schedule starts where I have Wednesdays off and I have to work on Fridays. I don't know. I feel like there's more that I wanted to tell you, but I can't think of it right now. But that's it. This is, yeah, a 2-hour long video, so I need to get to editing and post this. So I will see everyone in the new year, and when January starts, I will be back on the Bella Filipina the Dutch Beauty sampler, the Winter in the Shire, and the Silent Journey picture. And no set goal for the Bella Filipina, just next year in 2026, I hope to get the stitching done. Just the stitching, not the beading and the back stitch. I'm just hoping to get at least the stitching done. And I feel like that's a pretty good goal. The Tilton in the Crafts, Tilton Crafts Winter in the Shire. That one, I have 2,500 white stitches to complete, and then I can move on to the next color. So my goal is to get that done as quickly as possible so I can get into that next color. The Dutch Beauty sampler, I'm just going page by page. I don't have a real goal for that one, just completing pages. And then the Silent Journey picture for 2026, I think, because it took me almost all of 2025 to get through that first quarter. I think finishing that second quarter and maybe starting at the third quarter is probably my goal for that one. So that is it. I will see everyone in January.